It is the summer of 2026, and the American West is holding its breath. Lake Mead, the largest reservoir in the United States, is at 34% of its capacity. Lake Powell, the second largest, is at 25%. The river that feeds them both has lost a fifth of its water since the year 2000. 40 million people drink from that river, and the rules that decide who gets how much expire at the end of this year. In February, the 7 states that share it blew past their deadline to agree on new rules. They are still deadlocked today. But this crisis did not start in 2026. It started more than a century ago with a city that wanted to grow in a desert, an engineer with a 230-mile pipe, and a group of men in a room who divided a river using numbers that were never real. This is the story of how California, the 5th largest economy on Earth, was built on water that does not exist. Here is California's problem, and you can draw it on a napkin. 3/4 of the state's rain and snow falls in the north. 3/4 of the demand, the cities, the farms, is in the south. And the south is, naturally, a desert. So California survives on 3 lifelines. Snow from the Sierra Nevada, rivers from the north pumped through the Delta, and the Colorado River shared with 6 other states and Mexico. Every one of those lifelines is now failing at the same time. To understand how it got this way, go back to 1904. Los Angeles is a boomtown of 200,000 people, in a basin that gets 15 inches of rain a year. It is already outgrowing its river. 230 miles north, in the Owens Valley, farmers are irrigating green fields from a lake fed by Sierra snowmelt. The city's water chief, William Mulholland, looks at that valley and sees the future of Los Angeles. Agents working for the city quietly buy up land and water rights, often without telling farmers what they are for. By 1913, Mulholland's aqueduct is finished, 233 miles entirely by gravity, from the Owens Valley to Los Angeles. At the opening ceremony, he gives a 5-word speech. There it is. Take it. Los Angeles, take. Within a little over a decade, Owens Lake, a lake that had existed for hundreds of thousands of years, is gone. It becomes the largest single source of dust pollution in the United States. The lesson California learned was not caution. The lesson was that water can be moved, any distance, from anyone. 9 years later, the same thinking went continental. In 1922, 7 states met to divide the Colorado River: Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico upstream, California, Arizona, and Nevada downstream. They split it 50-50, 7.5 million acre-feet a year for the upper states, 7.5 for the lower. Later, a treaty promised Mexico another 1.5 million. There was just one problem. The engineers measured the river during some of the wettest years in centuries. The real river, on average, carries far less than what was promised on paper. They divided water that was not there. Hydrologists have a name for this: paper water. Every state got a share of a river that only exists in documents. And California, the biggest, thirstiest, most politically powerful of the 7, secured the largest single allocation, 4.4 million acre-feet a year, with some of the most senior rights on the river. For decades, it did not matter. The upper states were not using their full share, so California simply took the surplus. The river seemed infinite. It was not. What followed was the greatest water-building spree in human history. 1935. Hoover Dam corks the Colorado and creates Lake Mead. The next year, the Colorado River Aqueduct starts carrying that water 242 miles to Los Angeles. Then, California turned on itself. Starting in 1963, the state carved the California Aqueduct, over 400 miles, from the Delta in the north down the spine of the Central Valley to the south. Today, it supplies 27 million people. But the farms of the Central Valley, the most productive farmland in America, wanted more than the canals could deliver, so they drilled millions of acre-feet of groundwater, pumped out faster than rain could ever refill it. And then something strange happened. The ground itself began to sink. In parts of the Central Valley, the land has dropped 20 to 30 feet. The sinking earth is literally crushing the state's own infrastructure. The California aqueduct has lost roughly 20% of its capacity because the ground beneath it collapsed. California was now pumping so much water that it was destroying the machines that move the water. Then the weather changed. Around the year 2000, the Colorado River Basin entered what scientists now call a mega-drought, the driest 2 decades in over 1,000 years. The river's flow fell by 20%. The Sierra snowpack, which supplies up to 30% of California's water, began shrinking and melting earlier every year. The reservoirs started draining in plain sight. Lake Mead fell so far it exposed sunken boats and eventually human remains. By this spring, Lake Powell was barely above the level where Glen Canyon Dam can reliably generate power. Hoover Dam's output is already down 40%. The old rules for sharing shortages were written in 2007 as a temporary patch. Everyone knew they expired at the end of 2026. Everyone had 2 decades to prepare. In February of this year, the 7 states missed their deadline to propose new rules. The federal government gave them until later this year before it steps in and decides for them. Here is why they are stuck. Under every proposal on the table, the mandatory cuts fall almost entirely on the lower states: California, Arizona, and Nevada, about 3.2 million acre-feet of reductions. The upper states, whose water use is smaller, face no mandatory cuts at all. Arizona's governor has said she will not sign that deal, and California is holding the oldest cards at the table. Senior writes that say, legally in a shortage, others go dry first. A century of paper water has come due, and every state is pointing at someone else to pay the bill. So what happens now? If the states cannot agree, the federal government imposes its own rules on October 1st. That almost certainly means lawsuits, and the Colorado River could spend the next decade being decided in courtrooms instead of canyons. If the cuts land the way the current proposals suggest, the Imperial Valley, which grows much of America's winter vegetables using Colorado River water, would have to fallow fields. Cities from San Diego to Phoenix would face permanent rationing, and the sinking Central Valley would drill even deeper, sinking further, crushing more of the system that keeps it alive. California's water math no longer adds up. The state was engineered on 3 assumptions: that the snow always comes back, that the North always has a surplus, and that the Colorado always delivers. In 2026, none of those 3 things is reliably true anymore. 113 years ago, an engineer looked at someone else's water and said, "There it is, take it." The problem in 2026 is simpler and much worse. There it isn't.